Hey everyone, welcome back to Ragtag Stacking. In today's video, I want to go over something that I've been seeing recently, and that is the gold standard keeps popping up, and whether or not we're getting close to getting back onto a gold standard in some way or some shape or form. Now, just in case you aren't familiar with what the gold standard is, I just put a little graphic up here. You can pause the video to read through it if you need to. If, as I said, you might be new to stacking or new to hearing this concept. So if you are, you can read through it there if you'd like. And the US was on the gold standard for the longest time, and they went off the gold standard, and it was on June 5th, 1933. The United States went off the gold standard, a monetary system in which currency is backed by gold, when Congress enacted a joint resolution nullifying the right of creditors to demand payment in gold. So we've heard of that 1933, we've heard of like pre-33 gold. They did this confiscation of gold as well in 33, and you had to put in your gold, and they set the price of gold, I think it was at like $35 an ounce. So yeah, in 33 they did that thing where it was they set the price of gold at the $30 to $5 per ounce, and the government held that price until 1971. It said when Richard Nixon announced that the United States would no longer convert dollars to gold at a fixed value, thus completely abandoning the gold standard. Since then, there has not been the gold standard, and we have this fiat currency system where the dollar is basically backed by nothing. And we can see where that has led to recently with just printing up money out of nowhere and the inflation going wild, all that stuff. But yes, that is the system we have now. We aren't on the gold standard, and the dollar isn't backed by anything. But I have been coming across these articles talking about, are we getting close to the gold standard coming back? Like this one I found here is talking about edging towards a gold standard. I'm not going to go through this one. I will leave a link to any of the articles that I mentioned if you would like to read through them. But this one, yes, the title is talking about the gold standard, and they do talk about it in the article, but it's mainly about, Ukraine, Russia, everything that's going on there. And as I said, there's a through line in the article of, talking about the gold standard, but a lot of it is focusing on Russia, Ukraine. And one thing that I keep hearing when people are talking about this is there enough gold to return to the gold standard? And one answer I found says, on a practical level, there's not enough gold in the world to return to a gold standard. And no one else on the world is on the gold standard. By tying the value of the dollar to gold, the government cedes control of monetary policy, making it unable to increase the money supply in times of economic crisis. And any search talking about going back onto the gold standard, or can we get back onto the gold standard, always has the tint of we should not. They don't say this is how it could be possible. It's always we should not do that because of this. And this is a common thing that you come across is if the United States returns to the gold standard and then face an economic crisis, the government would not be permitted to use monetary policy, such as injecting stimulus money into the economy to avert financial disaster. So like they said before, the US is not on the gold standard, and there is no other country that is on the gold standard. But I did come across an article talking about a country that, could be pretty close, maybe edging towards getting back onto a gold standard, and they might have enough gold in reserve to launch a gold standard. This is the article here on goldsilver.com. I will leave a link in the description. And it says, does China have enough gold reserves to launch a gold standard? So I'm going to go down a little bit here through the article. They're talking about topic of de-dollarization, this and that, going on a little bit more into de-dollarization. As I said, if you would like to read through the whole article here, you can. But I'm getting down to primarily what I want to get here is the China and gold standard part of it. So it says, is China really considering a gold standard? It says, quoting a Beijing public policy research consultancy, the Chinese government newspaper Global Times reported, what's left is the gold standard. After the collapse of the Bretton Woods system, the question of the gold standard has never stopped. The gold standard essentially represents a world financial order. When an old financial order faces collapse, it is necessary to create a new financial order. So what's interesting down here is China was on a silver standard about 100 years ago, so a metal standard is nothing new to them. It says China's move to gold is relatively young. The People's Public Bank, their central bank, didn't begin buying in big amounts until 2010, and the Shanghai Gold Exchange was launched back in 2002. So it says, does China have enough to get back onto a gold standard? And they're talking about a few things here. They're trying to debunk a few misconceptions. One is about their dependence on getting it through Hong Kong. You can, as I said, I'll leave a link if you want to read through it. I'm going to skip down to the second one here. And it says, China normally uses dollars when trading in oil as part of the petro system, but now is also accepting yuan. I think that's how you pronounce it, yuan. It says the yuan is not well established internationally yet, so as an incentive, the government offers its exporters the option to convert their yuan into gold. This essentially results in a new source of gold demand in the country, one also not tracked by the import data. Third, says the Shanghai Exchange is a real bullion market in the sense that it trades primarily in physical metal. The COMEX, in contrast, trades primarily in gold derivatives. It also allows immediate physical delivery on every contract. We can't be certain, but withdrawals from the SGE could be a fair proxy for demand in the country. And it says, lastly, if they still don't have enough gold for a gold standard, they could take the extreme step of confiscating it from its citizens. And that could be a lot easier in China than, say, other parts of the world. And it says, China is not a democracy and the banking system is not separate from the government. Gold confiscation and nationalization is nothing new in history. That's definitely something that could be possible and, would not be far-fetched to imagine happening in China. And then down here it says a new standard for a gold standard. It says many countries store gold as part of their official monetary services. It's a backstop and insurance policy against collapse of their currency or some other calamity. It says, for example, the U.S. has 8,133 tons of gold in its reserves, while China officially has just 1,948 tons. So on the surface, it looks like the U.S. is stronger positioned to have a gold standard, but this view is misleading. That's because their total reserves, the U.S. has minimal foreign currency reserves, while China has 3.4 trillion. The denominators, I'm embarrassed by how much I had to edit out by me trying to pronounce that word. I just kept stumbling over it, are vastly different relative to their total reserves. A more practical measure would be to compare a country's gold reserves to its annual GDP. This would tell us how much gold would be available to support the economy in the event of a global currency crisis, or back part or all of their currency. But yeah, this is a fairly long article. They do go quite a bit further down, but those were just some of the things that I want to touch on. Again, I will leave a link in the description if you would like to read through the entire article. It's an article that I came across and I did want to talk about a little bit. And I know some people probably talk about that horrible Nixon impersonation earlier in the video, but I'd also like to hear what your thoughts are on the gold standard, whether you think it would be a good idea to get back onto it, if you think it's possible at all to ever return to it, and what your thoughts are on what China has been doing, and if you think that they will be successful in their attempts of, getting back onto the gold standard and backing their currency with that. But anyways, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you come back for the next one. Thank you.